Have you ever felt that even in a moment of pleasure, something seems to hold you back? As if there were invisible barriers preventing you from giving yourself completely? Many women experience this, facing fears, insecurities, and expectations that gradually undermine the sexual experience. But what if these barriers could be identified and overcome? Today, we're going to explore the main difficulties that get in the way of a woman's intimate life and how they can be overcome. Because at the end of the day, pleasure is everyone's right, and understanding what prevents you from achieving it is the first step towards a transformation. Are you ready to find out what's really blocking you? Then let's get started. Self-knowledge and acceptance of the body. Self-knowledge is fundamental for women to feel comfortable in their own skin. When a woman learns to recognize and accept her body, she opens the door to a new understanding of pleasure. This means looking at herself with affection, seeing beyond the imperfections that are often overlooked by others. This acceptance can be a real turning point in your sex life. When a woman feels good about herself, she becomes more open to experiences of pleasure. Self-image is a crucial factor that can influence the way a woman relates to sexuality. Often, insecurities and internal criticism can create barriers that make it difficult to indulge in pleasure. A woman's critical view of her body can generate a feeling of inadequacy, which directly interferes with her willingness to experience moments of intimacy. It is essential that she learns to cultivate a positive view of herself, which allows pleasure to flow naturally. In addition, the relationship with one's own body is an aspect that can be worked on throughout life. Self-esteem exercises, personal care, and practices that promote connection with the body, such as dance or yoga, can be very beneficial. These activities help women reconnect with their sensations and realize that pleasure is a natural and healthy part of life. Self-knowledge, therefore, is not a destination, but an ongoing journey. Body acceptance often also involves a process of deconstructing the standards imposed by society. Many women feel pressured to fit into unrealistic beauty standards, which can lead to an unnecessary internal struggle. By challenging them, a woman begins to see her body as an ally rather than an enemy. This change in perspective is vital for the experience of pleasure, as it allows her to feel freer and more confident. Finally, body acceptance and self-knowledge bring a sense of empowerment. This new way of seeing and feeling can radically transform a woman's sex life. With renewed confidence, she becomes more open to exploring her sexuality, communicating her desires and limits more clearly. This attitude not only enriches her intimate life, but also promotes healthier and more satisfying relationships. How anxiety and stress sabotage pleasure. Modern life is full of pressures and challenges that can generate anxiety and stress. For many women, these daily worries become a factor that undermines libido and sexual experience. When the mind is overloaded with professional, family, or financial worries, it is difficult to relax and indulge in pleasure. This connection between anxiety and sex life is a topic that deserves attention. The pressure to play multiple roles and succeed in different areas of life can be exhausting. This often leads to a constant feeling of dissatisfaction and emotional overload, which can reflect negatively on intimate life. When a woman is anxious, her body can respond with tension, making the sexual experience less pleasurable and even uncomfortable. In addition, anxiety can create a vicious cycle in which worrying about sexual performance generates even more stress. This worry can make women avoid intimacy, which in turn can intensify the feeling of disconnection and dissatisfaction. It's a cycle that feeds back on itself and can be difficult to break without the right intervention. To deal with anxiety and stress, it's important for women to seek out self-care strategies. Practices such as meditation, physical exercise, and hobbies that bring pleasure can be effective in relieving the pressure of everyday life. These activities help to create a calmer mental space, allowing women to feel more relaxed and open to pleasure. Communication with the partner also plays a vital role. Talking about worries and insecurities can lighten the emotional load and help create a safe and welcoming environment. When both partners feel comfortable sharing their feelings, intimacy becomes more authentic and satisfying, contributing to a more fulfilling sex life. Breaking myths, unrealistic expectations of pleasure. Unrealistic expectations about sexual pleasure are often shaped by pornography and the media. These influences create a distorted image of what a sexual relationship should be like, leading many women to feel dissatisfied with their experiences. The idea that pleasure should be intense and immediate can create a pressure that actually makes it difficult to experience genuine pleasure. By comparing themselves with the standards presented, many women begin to question their own bodies and experiences. This comparison can generate feelings of inadequacy and frustration, because reality is very different from fiction. Pleasure in real life is multifaceted and can be influenced by a number of factors, such as the emotional connection with the partner, the environment, and even the state of mind. What's more, this pressure to have a perfect sex life can lead to anxiety that becomes a vicious circle. When expectations aren't met, the disappointment can make women feel even more distant from pleasure. What was supposed to be a pleasurable experience becomes a source of stress, and this impacts not only her sex life, but also her self-esteem. It's important to remember that sexual pleasure is a unique journey for each person. By demystifying these expectations and accepting that each body reacts differently, women can begin to explore their sexuality in a freer and more authentic way. Self-knowledge and acceptance of one's own body are fundamental steps towards this change. It is therefore essential to deconstruct these unrealistic expectations and focus on what really brings pleasure. This involves accepting that intimacy can vary and that pleasure doesn't always have to be explosive. True satisfaction comes from connecting with yourself and your partner, allowing the experience to flow naturally. How cultural and social beliefs impact pleasure. Cultural and social beliefs play a significant role in shaping female sexuality. From a young age, many women are exposed to norms that dictate how they should behave in relation to pleasure and sexuality. These norms often lead to feelings of guilt and shame, creating a cycle of repression that can last a lifetime. This social pressure can make women feel insecure about their desires and preferences. For example, the idea that women should be passive or modest in their sex lives is a belief that still persists in many cultures. This expectation can generate an internal conflict, making it difficult to express one's desires and resulting in an unsatisfactory sexual experience. When a woman feels ashamed to seek pleasure, she can withdraw from her needs and desires, damaging her emotional and sexual health. In addition, the influence of the media and advertising contributes to reinforcing stereotypes and unrealistic expectations. The limited representation of female sexuality in soap operas, films, and even on social media can create a distorted view of what it means to be a woman and how pleasure should be experienced. This lack of diversity in representations leads many women to feel inadequate in relation to what is shown, increasing the pressure to fit into a mold that is not true. It is important for women to reflect on these beliefs and ask themselves how they impact their sex lives. Deconstructing harmful norms can be an essential step towards feeling freer to explore their sexuality without fear of judgment. This awareness allows women to empower themselves and seek more satisfying and authentic relationships. Finally, change begins with education and open conversation about sexuality. Discussing these issues with friends, family, or even in support groups can help break down taboos and promote a healthier view of female sexuality. When women come together to share their experiences and challenges, they become stronger and create a space where it is possible to live sexuality fully and without guilt. Overcoming fear of judgment and embracing pleasure. Fear of judgment is a significant barrier that many women face when it comes to their sexuality. This fear can be paralyzing and leads to a silence about desires and preferences. Society often imposes rigid norms about what is acceptable, and this can make a woman feel ashamed or inadequate for her desires. This external pressure is often reflected in intimate relationships. When a woman is afraid of being judged, she may choose to hide her true preferences, which more often than not results in sexual dissatisfaction. The fear of being misunderstood can make women feel insecure about expressing what they really want in their sex lives. This lack of transparency can create a space of disconnection between partners, where both feel lost in the search for pleasure. In addition, judgment can come not only from partners, but also from friends and society in general. This social pressure can reinforce the idea that some practices or desires are wrong or strange, leading to a cycle of shame and guilt. The result is that many women deprive themselves of fully exploring their sexuality, limiting themselves to standards that don't correspond to their desires. Overcoming this fear is a process that requires courage and self-knowledge. It is essential to create a safe and welcoming environment where women can share their experiences and desires without fear of reprisals. When partners feel free to talk about their desires, it is possible to build a deeper and more satisfying intimacy. Finally, it's important to remember that each person is unique and has the right to explore their sexuality without fear of judgment. By freeing themselves from this pressure, women can discover new dimensions of pleasure and satisfaction, enriching their sexual and emotional lives. Overcoming the marks of past trauma. Experiences of trauma or abuse can have a profound impact on a woman's sex life. Often, these traumatic events create emotional scars that hinder the ability to enjoy pleasure. Fear, mistrust, and emotional pain can manifest themselves in a variety of ways, affecting intimacy and sexuality. For many women, the simple act of connecting sexually can bring up painful memories. The trauma can lead to a series of reactions, such as avoidance of intimate situations or difficulty trusting a partner. This mistrust can be a significant obstacle to building a healthy sex life. To overcome this, it is essential that women have access to support resources, such as therapy or support groups, which can help them process and deal with their experiences. In addition, the impact of abuse can manifest itself in issues of self-esteem and self-image. Many women who have been through traumatic experiences may find it difficult to accept their bodies, which can interfere with their ability to let go of pleasure. The healing process involves not only seeking support, but also deep work on self-compassion and acceptance. Recognizing and validating the emotions that arise from these experiences is an important step on the journey to recovery. This can include practicing self-care and mindfulness techniques, which help women reconnect with their bodies in a positive and safe way. With time and the right support, it is possible to regain the ability to feel pleasure and enjoy intimacy. Finally, raising awareness about the impact of trauma on sexual life is fundamental. By sharing your stories and listening to those of other women, you can create a space of empathy and understanding. This exchange can be a powerful catalyst for healing, allowing women to feel more supported and less isolated in their experiences. The importance of open communication in intimacy. Lack of communication between partners can be a real obstacle in sex life. Often, people are afraid to express what they really want or need, either for fear of hurting the other or because they are insecure about what their partner might think. This lack of dialogue can lead to misunderstandings and the formation of expectations that don't correspond to reality. Over time, this can lead to a sexual disconnection that affects the couple's intimacy. When partners don't talk openly about their preferences, it's common for one of them to feel frustrated. Imagine a scenario in which one partner wants to try something new but doesn't feel comfortable sharing it. This lack of communication can result in monotonous and unsatisfying sexual relations where both become unhappy. Pleasure becomes a distant expectation, something that seems increasingly difficult to achieve. Talking about desires, limits, and fantasies may seem challenging, but it is essential for a healthy relationship. Open communication not only helps to align expectations, but also strengthens the emotional connection between partners. When both feel safe to share what they think and feel, intimacy grows, and pleasure tends to be more easily achieved. In addition, communication can help identify and resolve problems before they become major barriers. Often, a simple, "Can we talk about this?" can open the door to discussions that improve the couple's sex life. It is this exchange that creates a safe space, where everyone feels free to explore their needs without fear of judgment. Therefore, investing time and energy in communication is a fundamental step. It's not just about talking about sex, but about building mutual understanding and trust that will benefit all areas of the relationship. In this way, a lack of communication, which may seem like a small stone in the road, becomes a great ally for pleasure. How relationship conflicts affect intimacy. Relationship problems are more common than you might think. Often, small disagreements accumulate, creating a tense atmosphere between partners. When communication doesn't flow, it's easy for feelings of frustration and hurt to set in. This can end up affecting intimacy, which is fundamental to a healthy sex life. Pleasure, which should be a light and fun part of the relationship, can become a battlefield where resentments and discontent overlap. In addition, a lack of conflict resolution can lead to an emotional disconnection. When one or both partners feel that they are not listened to or understood, the desire to get physically close diminishes. Sexual desire is often linked to emotional desire. If one side feels neglected, pleasure can become a distant memory. What could be a moment of intimacy instead becomes a reminder of unresolved differences. It's important to remember that all relationships go through ups and downs. Dialogue is a powerful tool for overcoming these difficult moments. Talking openly about what's bothering you can help create a space of trust and understanding. When partners feel safe to express their concerns, they are more likely to find solutions that work for both of them, rekindling passion and connection. Another issue to consider is how routine can influence the dynamics of the relationship. The monotony of everyday life can lead to stagnation, making partners feel disconnected. It's essential to look for ways to innovate and keep the relationship fresh, whether through new experiences or simply stepping out of the comfort zone. This can not only improve communication, but also bring back pleasure and intimacy. Finally, seeking outside help, such as couples therapy, can be a great step towards restoring the connection. Sometimes the help of a professional can offer new perspectives and tools for dealing with conflicts. The aim is always to strengthen the relationship, allowing pleasure and intimacy to take pride of place once again. The importance of sex education for pleasure. The lack of sex education is one of the biggest challenges many people face. Often, what is known about sexuality comes from unreliable sources, such as friends or the media, which can propagate myths and misinformation. This knowledge gap can lead to insecurities and misunderstandings about one's own body and pleasure. When you don't have the right information, it's easy to feel lost and confused, which can interfere with your ability to enjoy intimate moments. In addition, a lack of sex education can lead to unrealistic expectations about what should happen in a sexual relationship. Without proper understanding, people may think that sexuality is something that should follow a specific script, when in fact everyone has their own preferences and rhythms. This can lead to unnecessary pressure, where pleasure becomes an obligation rather than a pleasurable experience. Proper sex education should include not only biological aspects, but also emotional and social ones. Talking about consent, limits, and respect is fundamental for everyone to feel safe and at ease. When you have a solid foundation of knowledge, it's easier to explore and understand what really brings pleasure. This can transform the sexual experience into something much more rewarding and satisfying. Another important point is the diversity of sexual experiences. Sex education should address different orientations and preferences, helping to normalize the conversation about what can be considered normal. This helps to combat stigma and shame, allowing people to feel more comfortable with their own preferences. Ultimately, educating yourself about sexuality is a form of empowerment. Finally, promoting sex education in schools and at home is essential to creating a more informed and confident generation. Open and honest conversations about sexuality can help demystify taboos and promote an environment where pleasure is seen as something natural and healthy. In this way, people will be better prepared to enjoy their sex lives in a full and satisfying way. Breaking the cycle of negative conditioning in pleasure. The cycle of negative conditioning can be a real obstacle in a person's sex life. Past experiences, especially negative ones, can stick in the mind and affect the way you experience the present. Often, a single bad experience can lead to a state of anxiety or insecurity, which is repeated in new situations. This creates a vicious cycle, where fear and insecurity reduce the willingness to enjoy. When a person finds themselves trapped in this cycle, they can develop an aversion to intimacy. What should be a moment of pleasure becomes a source of stress and discomfort. It's as if each new sexual experience is filtered through the lens of the past, making it difficult to enjoy what's happening. This connection between past and current experiences can be quite complex and often goes unnoticed. The good news is that it is possible to break this cycle. Self-understanding and reflection on past experiences can be the first step. Understanding how these experiences have shaped your reactions and feelings is fundamental to overcoming these obstacles. Working on your self-confidence and learning to love yourself as you are can help to reverse this negative conditioning. In addition, therapy can be a valuable tool in this process. Trained professionals can help you explore these experiences and find ways to reframe them. Often, talking about what happened and receiving support can be liberating. This allows the person to reconnect with their sexuality in a healthier and more positive way. Finally, cultivating a mindset of self-compassion is essential, realizing that everyone has their struggles and that pleasure can be a path of discovery and growth can help ease insecurities. Each new sexual experience is an opportunity to learn and connect with your partner in a deeper way, thus breaking the cycle of negative conditioning and allowing pleasure to become a natural part of life. Now that we've explored some of the main barriers that can prevent you from living your sexuality to the full, it's time to reflect. Which of these issues do you feel impact your life the most? Remember, the first step to transforming your relationship with pleasure is self-knowledge. Every little discovery about yourself can open doors to a new way of living your intimacy with more freedom and connection. How about starting today? Perhaps with an honest conversation with your partner, or even with yourself. The important thing is to move forward with empathy and curiosity. And if this video has helped you in any way, share your experiences in the comments. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. See you in our next video.